Under the recommended motion, the policy should read 5305 instead of 5308. And then, under the consent agenda, page 8, item number 10. Page 8, item number 10, under the ratification, payroll, it says payroll 18. It should read payroll number 27, payroll number 28, and payroll number 29.
27, 28, 29.
Any other changes? Okay. Thank you. Motion to approve agenda as presented.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed say nay. Let's have it. Motion carries. Subject C, call to the public. No call to the public. Okay, 2, information, discussion, action. Subject A, 2023-2024 superintendent's performance-based pay goal determination. That is Mr. David Verdugo.
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. President. So this is our annual review of my performance goals. So remember last year, the presentation just approved it, which was but I do enjoy presenting and sharing what we've been doing throughout the year to achieve our performance goals, because it's not only my goals, although it is me that the benefit of the goal district. But that's one of the things that I've always been very proud of, is that it's our district successful, and I just get to be the face of that with my giant heads. So, just going through one of the things that we really focused on as a district is being better every day, trying to be the best that we can in everything that we do. Is one of the things that we all talk about, being above the bar and making sure that we get better every day. And so the beginning of the presentation is just again reminding the board that that's what our goal is. It's getting better. One facet of our district is just trying to get better every day. Our values, just a reminder of our values within the district. And one of the ones that I always want to make sure we highlight is the positive relationships, integrity, always doing things the right way, making sure that we are always honest and doing things that from my standpoint, but also just modeling that for the district. So work ethic, pairing with Mr. Beach, I'm trying to find myself right now, taking this time off. I really in my life other than work. Trying to figure out what I'm doing other than work. It's hard to do because I spend all my waking hours either thinking about the district, what we're doing, how can I make it better, answering email, looking at things, reading. So it's very hard to find different things to do. I've cleaned my closet numerous times now, everything else. So trying to find something else to do other than work has been very difficult. So going into the goals, goal 1, student achievement and accountability. Our scores this past year we didn't do as well as we had the previous year, and so our letter grades dropped a little bit, and so that's one of the things that we did have in the spring. We'll see what next year. But the spring Dallas ones were some of the best that we've had. And really all of the teachers and all their work on Zella, because I know that was a concern that we had, was how our students were doing on Zella and transitioning students. And so we had very high scores that we transitioned a lot of students, but also students also made a lot of progress. And so we'll get to see that when we do our data presentation, but again, wanted to share that as part of the goal tonight. Our letter grades again dropped. Rio Rico High School dropped to a C from a B. And that was something that really transitioning this year. preliminary data on the ACT scores, was positive as we had hoped. And so we're not sure if that will change this next year. The letter grades are not due to come out until November of this year. So it puts us a little bit behind on looking at that data. But we'll still have a board presentation with our data coming up in August, September, just so that the board is aware of what we're doing, how we're improving. And also the board is aware from our leadership academy, because you got to spend some time with on AI, but also seeing the teams that are working on what worked well this year and what didn't work as well. So that's something that we're looking at with the letter grades as well. Some other student achievement and accountability. In the technology still continues our dual enrollment. That's one of the areas I wanted to highlight. Our enrollment continues to be something that we're progressing. Our goal is still to have at some point between 27, 28 to have 60% of our students graduate with an associate's degree, and we're making that progress. Working hard, Mr. Knoip and his team, Dr. Linderville working with them, CTE component as well. Really focusing on how can we get those students to take dual enrollment courses. Now, it doesn't diminish our AP program. Our AP is still there, but the difference is Arizona is very difficult to accept scores in state with AP. We actually, the University of Arizona, for instance, will not accept anything but a 4 or 5, where like Stanford and Cal Berkeley accept 3s. So it really is interesting. So that's one of the reasons that we made the shift to dual enrollment, because when you take a dual enrollment class, it guarantees that you get a college credit. So we wanted, and for our students, we think that's more important than, and again, don't want to diminish AP because we still want those kids to be able to take that, but it's really for our students to have the opportunity to grow and do the dual enrollment and get that college credit. And we continue with our personalized learning. Implementation with standard-based grading, so a lot of different things that we're working on as a district in student achievement and accountability. Again, the board got to be a participant in the IEP process. Where our leadership academy, and that'll continue. We'll have another day coming up in July where the teams will come back. And I really commend the teams for being right after school was out that next week, focusing on that data. And then looking at how can we get better, and then taking some time off, let it sink in, and then coming back in July for the Leadership Academy 2 to look at how are we doing, and then finally put those action plans into place. So some other things that again, it's a yearly process. So once we do that, we'll still have meetings and do all the things. So our student achievement and accountability is never ending. We're always looking at how, again, going back to that first slide, being above the bar, how can we get better every day? So the determination based on all of that information was approach to the goal. Because we did drop a recommendation to the board is that it's an approaches versus meeting the goal. Last year was, I think, the first time that we met that goal, because we had all of our letter grades be over above. But with our letter grades dropping, that's one of the components that is part of the standard. And since we didn't achieve that as a district, it's hard for me to say that I met the goal. So recommending that it's an approaches goal. So any questions that I can answer about goal number 1?
Ms. Bovee, any questions on goal 1?
I have no questions.
Ms. Vasquez?
No, I have none.
I have none. Mr. Ramirez? Okay.
When just you've done outstanding job with regard, I give you great marks with regard to dual enrollment and many other things that you've done. I'm just not too happy about the grade having dropped at Rio Grande High School. However, we had a new principal come in, so that's John's first year, and so he's dealing with things that happened in the past. So I just wanted to make that clear.
Yeah, thank you. And so this letter was from the previous principal. So this The letter grades will come out in November, so, the lag that happens unfortunately between the years. So, but we'll look at that, and again, like I said, the preliminary data not looking positive with the ACT scores, but that's only one component, so we don't know how we did in some of the other facets that create the letter grade. And so hopefully we'll get to a B, but we're not sure where we're at with it.
Just as with the former principal, we kind of get an echo here. Just as with the former principal, we gave him time.
Yeah.
If you recall, I was his greatest cheerleader in the beginning, even needled about it later on. But you have to give people time, and I just wanted to make that very clear that that's not Mr. Knoip's deal there, that grade. So.
And I appreciate that, Mr. Rivers, and the thing is that, part of it, and again, is still, and that's what I would say tonight, is it falls on me. So no matter what happens within school sites and everything, at the end of it falls on me. So if we're not meeting the expectation, not getting the letter grades that we need to get, then it's my responsibility. And so, so I do agree with you that we have to give Mr. Knoip some time, but it's still in the end, it falls on me to make sure that lapse doesn't happen. And
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Ms. Flanders.
all right, number two, the high quality staff. I think this is something that for the district that we're always looking at hiring the best people. And when I put this year, and I do it every year, talk about it, welcome back, talk about it as much as I possibly can about our district, because it is a great place to work. It is a board support for our insurance, for all the different things that we do, salaries, longevity stipends, the different things that we do. But I will tell you that it's not an easy place to work because we have expectations. And so if you want to be part of a special team, you want to be part of something that makes a difference, then it's the place for you. But if you're wanting to coast and do some things, then this is not the place for you. And so we have those tough conversations, and I say that because sometimes we do have some people that leave. And there are some people that we want to stay, yes, but there's also people that we want to go because they're not meeting our expectations. Today I was actually asked by a person that is writing his second book to incorporate a chapter about our district, about how we've been able to be successful. And because we are what they consider 90-90-90 district, again, 90% free and reduced, 90% Hispanic population, and 94% graduation. So there are not many across the country. So that's one of the things that I attribute that. And I always tell people, because they ask, what's the South district? And I say, it's the people. It's our team, our staff. We put it in place, but it is the team. And well, how can we transfer that? I said, well, we have to transfer all of our people from our team to make it work in your district. And they're like, well, that's hard to do. And I said, yes, it is, but it's something that we're fortunate here, that we have a lot of great people that really commit to doing the best they can for our students, because that's what our students deserve. So some of the things that we do to make sure we have a high quality staff. And I want to thank the board for this year. We're hiring retirees, because I think that was a step that we got in front of other districts, because it really doesn't necessarily cost us anything in the fact of keeping our high quality people, recruiting high quality people that that are retirees that have a lot of experience. And it doesn't mean that everybody that retires is going to be that person, but if it's a high quality person, we want to try to incentivize them. So I thank the board for that support at that. Like I mentioned, there's longevity stipends, electronic applications, highlight again 5% salary increase this year. And since the whole 20 by 2020, we're up to 32% salary increase since that time. So over the last 7 years, which is significant. And I think we're one of the leading districts in that, because again, some of the districts didn't meet the 20 by 2020 requirement. And so Ms. Brown for always making sure we're fiscally on track, that we were able to do that. And then some of the other things that we're doing to hire our own. And then this last year, we added the opportunity for some of our staff to become principals, to get certified as principals. And so we have a few cohort members that are going through that process. So because not only do we have a teacher shortage, but we also have a leadership shortage. We are in a situation where there just is not a pipeline of principals. And so trying to get that pipeline of teachers, but also the pipeline of future principals. And so we have some people that are now in that process. And so that's something that we designated some funds for. We have professional development opportunities for our classified individuals as well, because we know that some of our classified individuals, if we can provide that support, then they can become teachers or go beyond that. So we also have that opportunity for some of our staff. And then also one of the things that I highlighted here that I just always want to make sure we talk about, because our classified individuals do a lot of hard work. And we've really given that impression and really added, it's now 500,000+ annually to make sure that we keep up with that. And so they were the first group that we worked on along with teachers. And then this last year, again, thank the board for support and incentives for administration. So with that, I recommend that I meet the goal, but I again can answer any questions that you have about high quality staff.
Ms. Hogan?
I have no questions, thank you.
Vasquez?
No, no questions.
Mr. Ramirez?
Fantastic place to work here.
Yeah, I thought you hit a lot of the bullet points, but I just want to say this. You mentioned the teachers that we have and the people, but it's also our kids. Our kids are just really something else. I've worked in a lot of other districts, and but I know it's just an oversight. Our kids are the greatest too. And there's something else, and they're part of that whole equation. The sauce and all.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's the
Secret sauce.
Secret sauce it is a great community. That's the thing people have asked me, how have you been a superintendent for so long? Because the average lifespan of a superintendent is 3 years or less. And to be going into year 11, and it's a great place to work, a great place to be, great families, great students, great teachers, great staff, supportive board. So it's everybody. And I think I shared with the board, I was asked to do a presentation to superintendent cohort. And it was ironically on board relations and how do you deal with a board. So I shared with them, so the bottom line is we agree to disagree at times, but we all have the same vision of where we want our community and our staff to be, where we want our community to be, our schools to be. And so that makes it easy when we're on the same page on that. And we can disagree on certain things, but in the end, we all know that we're going to support our kids, support our families, and make sure that our community and our schools are the best they possibly can.
Yes, and disagreement doesn't mean dissension. But I want to say too that sometimes we set things in place, like we are always trying to hire the best. But sometimes we set things in place that make it rather difficult. Teachers, I know that we have differences here on the governing board with regard to that, with like personalized learning. For instance, I believe firmly, and I've said it openly, that it's a great idea, but that it really wears on our teachers. Some of them have expressed to me that they left because of that reason already. And I'm praying to God that I'm wrong. I'm totally wrong about it. And that we will have people that want to remain, but sometimes we put things in motion, Mr. Verdugo. And I know you looking like everybody here, we want the best for the kids, but I think just moving forward, I would strongly suggest that you think about some of those things you put in motion, because they sometimes are contrary to the things that we're looking for, like retaining our teachers.
And I think, that's something we always look at, but I also think that recruited some interested teachers because of the personalized learning. So I think that blossom, I think we've to your point, hired some new that are really interested in that opportunity and what that does for our students.
Thank you, sir. Thanks, Mr. Ramirez. Go ahead, Mr. Verdugo.
So goal 3, school climate, which kind of goes with hiring staff. Kind of what we were just talking about is our our students, and providing for them. One of the things that I've been very proud of, and I thank Ms. Brown for introducing the food truck, for instance, this summer, the tour of our students, providing food for our students in the summers, and being able to have our kids get meals, not only during the school year, breakfast, lunch, and snacks after school, but also in the summer, so providing things, Dr. Linderville helping with telemedicine at all of our school sites, making sure that we have that in place, so there's just a lot of things in place from a school climate, because we know that it's not just what we're talking about, what the personalized learning Mr. Burns was talking about with our students, it's providing all the different things that they need, from food to medical care, to make sure that they're able to come to school. And I think that's one of the reasons that our attendance rate continues to be positive, and was a little bit down this past year, but it's still higher than the state average by far. And I think it's because we provide something for our students to make sure that they're in school. And so the other part of that is the facilities. So we've really worked hard at trying to have the best facilities. Graduation this year was incredible. Just being able to see full sides of two bleachers instead of standing remotely around. It was just really an incredible sight to see the bleachers on both sides just completely full. So just having that facilities now, the pool will be done soon. Just talking to Mr. Beach about lifeguarding and, getting those kids swimming and getting our elementary kids in the pool and doing things that's going to be exciting about, hopefully in the next few weeks, being able to open that up. But then all the new classrooms, the field house, the weight room that we expanded a few years ago, and then we'll have another weight room, exercise facility for our students, just all the different things, including just classroom support. They've been really, really positive. Again, some of the other school climate things are related to opportunities for our students. One of the things that we talked about a little bit before was the dual enrollment, but at our middle schools, one of the things that we're starting to do is so that students can access the dual enrollment, is we're pushing down Algebra 1, geometry, even English, Spanish. That opens up for our students in the high school level to have those opportunities to take dual enrollment. So again, providing that climate that there's something for every student. And so the CTE programs, all the different things, we're able to help our students with. One of the things that I will say in the school climate, I know that on the board agenda tonight, talking about cell phone student handbooks, discipline. I think that's something that post-COVID, I mean, we've all had the whole COVID caused a lot of damage. I think we can all agree on that. But now we're past that. We've got to stop making that COVID excuse, and how do we get back on track? So I think the admin team have a part to look at the handbooks, look at the rules, start making sure that we're implementing those things so that our climate, like I said, we reduced a lot of fights at the high school this past year, other sites, because once we started cracking down on filming, that was the incentive to do those things. So I think tonight, again, you'll have the cell phone policy, the handbooks and things that we're implementing and reinforcing, dress code, things like that. So improving the school climate are all part of it. So with that, recommendation is that I met the goal as well. Any questions?
Ms. Phobie?
I have no questions. Thank you.
No,
I have none.
totally agree with everything.
Yeah, well, some of these are kind of old, Mr. Google, like the football field one.
Yeah.
It's like 3 years old.
And it's just silent because it's so the construction, the bond hasn't completed. So it's that all of the different things that are still, even though they're still part of the bond, and the bond will be done hopefully.
Some, not all of the CTE stuff too, but yeah, I just don't want to see you, as we've said before, rest on your laurels,
Like that. Hopefully not, and that's not in my DNA.
Absolutely.
Any other questions?
Jeannie?
And then the four, community involvement, that's something that, I became superintendent, 10 years ago. Was one of the biggest requests was to be involved with our community. Not only locally, but in Southern Arizona and statewide and nationally. And so, we do have a ton of community involvement, from members of our team, representing us on Rotary, different boards. Like, for instance, Ms. Brown is on the trust board now, which is something for us, Dr. Under the Southern Arizona Consortium for safety. So we have a lot of different, Mr. Chandler was on the professional practice board. So, and then the numerous boards that I am on, including this year, adding AIA. And then I just was renewed by the Department of the State Board of Education, reappointed me to the West Ed Board. So I was appointed again for another 3-year term for West Ed, so which represents us on a national level, as well as a district. So those are all different things that, you know, as a district, we have a footprint, not only locally, but you know, I think the board also saw when we held the meeting with all the different school districts coming to our district to look at their convening here. And we had that from all over the place, Montana, Alaska, districts coming to see what we're doing. So there's a lot of involvement with our community. And so that's one of the things that I would say that is probably one of my greatest strengths, has been to be active in our community in all different aspects. You know, you can see the list of things that I'm either involved in or the team is involved in. And so that's a question that I can answer for.
That was the last goal, correct?
That is the last one, correct?
Okay, Ms. Fogarty,
I have no questions, thank you.
Ms. Vasquez.
No questions. Don't know how you do it, but no.
Mayor Ramirez.
Yeah, I don't have any questions on that last one, but I do want to say that I can't help but noticing some things that I feel that you do need to improve upon, like in the last meeting when people didn't go your way with regard to the vote. I think, you know, you decided you followed through on what you said you were going to do with the governing board, and you took this time off. And I'm just like the rest of them. I'm happy to see that you took this time off and, you know, you enjoy your family and get away from it all for a while to think about things. However, it's not, I don't begrudge you that time, as you well know. I think it's great. I think it's great you're gonna go visit your son. I love seeing all the stats on him and everything that you updated on. It's just the way you went about taking that time off. And it bothered me, rubbed me the wrong way, because your underlings had to take all this responsibility and they were caught off guard, you know, and granted, they're really a tough team. You assembled a good team, but it's just the way in which you went about it that I think could have been better had you maybe talked to us before you did that.
I sent you an email June 6th with the proposal that had everything.
Yes, I understand with the proposal, but I mean, that night to tell us that and then do that, just, again, I don't begrudge you the time, Mr. Verdugo, I don't, you know me too well. You know that I don't begrudge you the time. We just talked about disagreement and so forth and maintaining our professionalism, but I can't help but notice that, and that I don't like, because that puts a lot of pressure on people. It's a lot of pressure on people. You remember kind of a parallel. We had several administrators who were out, principals at schools, and a lot of stuff fell on the that responsibility fell on those people. And if you recall, I said that we should have some kind of a way of compensating them, so that it would be fair to them, because they take on this, all of a sudden, just sporadically they take on, or spontaneously they have to take on all this responsibility. So maybe we want to bring that up in the future too, because your underlings have to take that kind of responsibility. Just all of a sudden, they were caught off guard, no matter what anybody says here. And I just think that either we take care of them or we have a better way of dealing with it.
But I think we're all caught off guard. including me.
Again, disagreement is not dissent.
I agree.
Thanks for sharing, Mr. Ramirez.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saved my comments till the end. Dave, you're very proactive on salaries. You know, we've been giving raises for the last 2 years, so excellent. And that helps with teacher retention, very proactive on recruitment. I'd love to see that because having teachers that stay in our community year after year after year, that's what brings those test scores up. You know, when we have a teacher come in and math teacher and then leave, it's just, there's no continuity there. So I think with the salary increases, that helped with the recruitment. A lot of people in our neighboring districts to the north and south are already talking about it, you know, and asking questions about Rio Rico. So continue doing that. I was gonna say this till the end with the board members report, but you told me a long time ago that you wanted to make Rio Rico the hub of our community. You know, and I'm seeing it transform right now. You know, in my neighborhood, I'm doing bike rides. I see the food truck. I see the little kids out there getting their free lunches and parents coming all the way from Palo Parado down to make sure they get their meals. I see the football field being utilized. I've been helping out with the wrestling club. We got the clubs going in the summer. We've got the Rio Rico volleyball camps, basketball camps. The weight room is filled with kids. And it's really coming together as far as that vision. With the pool eventually in about a month or two, you know, that's gonna bring in just people from all over our community, including, which is very important, our parents are gonna come and just swim at night and when there's less crowds. And that's an opportunity, you know, for them to get to know our district, our school. And so, you know, I'm super proud in your vision there, but overall, yeah, good job.
Thank you, appreciate it. And I agree. And that's, you know, when I became superintendent, that was part of the vision that I think collaboration with the board of how can we make our community, the district, the center of the community, because we don't have a lot of amenities. So keeping our, you know, and it's still part of the even bigger vision of when they're there, now parents dropping their kids off for activities in the evening, now providing community college classes for them at night and helping the community continue to grow. So I think that's the next step. So thank you for sharing.
Okay. That's it? Okay, so recommended action motion to approve the 2023-2024 superintendent's performance-based pay goals determination as presented.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed say nay. And all those that abstain, I abstain. One abstention. So we got 3 ayes, 1 that abstained, and one absent. Okay, motion does carry. Moving on to.
For the record, I want to say that this is all one thing. I agree with many of the things, but not all.
Okay,
And that's why I abstained.
okay. Thank you, Mr. Ramirez. And Mr. Verdugo, were you sticking around or?
I'll be out here.
Okay. Safe trip north.
Thank you.
Yep. And have a good time in Philippines.
Thank you. I'll be back on Monday and Tuesdays.
Okay.
See.
Subject B, override pro statement, Dr. Lunderville.
Thank you, Mr. President. We're going to Ms. Brown to review the overall statement and answer any questions the board would have. This is the exact same. Very similar to the override statement that and we were obviously successful in that measure.
Thank you, Dr. Lunderville. Good evening, Mr. President and members of the board. Dr. Lunderville is correct. The information that we shared, the pro statement that we shared initially is identical to the pro statement that one, Ms. Vasquez, that is from that was included in your board packet. It was identical to the one used when we passed the mandates. The structure of the override is based on the recommendation from the committee is not changing. What do we mean by the structure? So the percentage will remain the same at 9%. That is a recommendation. The use of the override funds will remain the same. The committee had no recommendation to modify this in any way. They want to continue with the same uses and the same percentage. Therefore, we provided the board with a copy of the previous statement for your review. You're more than welcome to modify it as you see fit. I see that Mr. Ramirez here with us, a draft of his recommendation. So tonight, we still have time. We have until the end of July to adopt a pro statement. So if the board wants to make any modifications or recommendations or kind of combined Mr. Ramirez draft with the one that we provided, you're more than welcome to do so. You can provide us with instructions or directions on how to do it, and we can bring it back.
I want to say that I did combine much of what's on there. We just tweaked it a little bit.
I'm sorry, is this one yours?
But I'll wait until, get to me.
That it, Ms. Brown? Ms. Fogan, any questions?
I have no questions. I really appreciate that this was, you had a committee that worked on it from community people as well as district people. So this has had a lot of input and thank you very much.
Ms. Vasquez?
Same, I'm very happy that it was with the committee. I'm very happy that you brought different people in and you got their input and everybody else. So thank you for all your work. Thank you for everything that you do. I'm happy.
Mr. Ramirez?
Yes, sir. So, yeah, I too. I think you guys did a great job, and good work, and I only just saw some things that I thought we should change to make it a better pitch. This is what I wrote because, first of all, I want the governing board to know that I thought it was important to put the kindergarten, wanting to change, to continue funding kindergarten, full kindergarten. So I wanted to make that the highlight and bring that to the attention because in the original version, it mentions the 9% override first, and then you know how it is, people go to the booth and they look at this and they think, lots of people say, oh my God, another override, more taxation. What do these guys want now? So I thought if we told them right up front and that it would be better. And I try to put it in the active voice so it would have more punch to it. So I'll just read the first paragraph. It says, while maintaining fiscal responsibility and even lowering taxes within 8 years, we, the SCVUSD governing board are requesting, a 9% override to continue full day kindergarten. Again, I put that in there because I think right away they know what it's for. And I think when they know that it's for full kindergarten, they're less likely.
Mr. Ramirez, you're referring to the first, so the other board members can follow along, the pro statement override, second paragraph, where it states, we are excited to work within.
Yes, all of them.
To replace that with this paragraph.
Yes, because it's extreme wording, and the wordiness, the message truly gets lost of why it is that we really want to looking for this. And then I put this operations and maintenance override supports such worthwhile educational endeavors as, and then I put the rest that was in there. I listed all the things that you have, the band, library, media centers, etc., counseling, and so forth. And then I thought it was important to put the word please here. Please support the district's effort to continue full day kindergarten. Once again, reminding them of what they're voting for. And then I also put your support is greatly appreciated and thank you so kindly, because I thought putting please and thank you are really important in that document, and it cut it down and it has more punch to it. It cuts down the words too.
Pro statement is the board's statement, so you're more than welcome to modify it.
I was wondering, Ms. Brown, do you see any discrepancies as far as what he's replacing, or is it pretty much the same thing, but less words? And
I believe it's pretty comparable. I don't see any problems with
Make sure to keep all the meat on the bone,
this version.
are you replacing the all three?
Yes.
sections? Okay,
It's saying the same thing, but fewer words in it, I believe, anyway. You guys can quote however you want, but I believe that it has more punch to it. And I think that it's better for us and it gives us a better chance of passing that override. I really do believe it. But again, I respect in whatever you guys want to do.
it would be a motion to amend by substituting Mr. Ramirez's version for the pro statement override amendment, correct?
It's not adopted right yet, so we just make a motion with the verbiage that you.
So
I would like to put
would it be an
it,
amendment because he's proposing a change in?
No, we haven't adopted this yet, so it was just simply a recommendation, of the last one, so it would just be a matter of solidifying, how you wanted to read it, would probably be best if you just read I make a motion to adopt the following statement, read it and vote.
Okay. Okay. Make a motion to adopt the following statement. To the 2023-2024. What is it?
I still have,
Which statement?
I still have,
And amend if desired. So I'll take some direction on this. We have a pro override statement, okay?
Yeah.
We can go ahead and make a motion to adopt it as is. But
Yes.
Mr. Ramirez would like to amend it by adding his
Replacing.
and cleaning up,
replace,
and cleaning up some of the errors that are in.
We vote on this statement and see if it passes. And if it doesn't pass, then this,
make another motion.
Either way, yes, either way.
Okay. Motion to adopt a resolution approving the governing board's argument in support of the special maintenance and operation budget override election
as submitted.
that's submitted. Any discussion?
My discussion is simply that, I don't dislike yours. I certainly feel that it's, slap in the face to the committee who worked on this. And to me, this is, more official. I'm in favor of the existing. That's not a vote.
There was a motion. Do we have a second?
Well, I'd like to answer that. I mean, I can't. I'm
We'll,
done.
we'll wait till the discussion after a second.
That's-
If there's a motion, is there a second?
I seconded.
Okay, now, Ms. Vasquez, do you have a?
No, okay, one of the things is that this one seems like, like she says, it's very condensed and it doesn't give you, like over here, it's saying that the governing board, believes that educating our students. Over here, we're not talking about educating our students.
Well, that's understood. That's where some of the cleanup had to be made. Some of these things are superfluous. But there are errors in there, I can tell you right now, and I cleaned those up. I think the main thing here is keeping that thing in front of everybody when they're gonna go and vote for this, that this is about funding full kindergarten. And that message is lost in all the verbiage. And it's not an insult to them. They understood. We revised things before. It's not an assault on it. Just cleaning it up and making it have a little bit more punch.
Yeah, can I ask you a question, like, why is it on here? No mention of the kindergarten? In this one?
Kinder on both.
Yeah.
It is, but it's not in the beginning, Ms. Vasquez. It's not, when they're asking for the 9% override, it's not initially.
Not one of us.
It's the first thing that comes up, is the override and the 9%. And then later it explains that, whereas this tells you right away what it is that people are voting on.
I'm trying to find, that's why I'm just reading it over.
Kinder is on
It's there, but it comes later.
It's pro statement, right? Yeah, because kinder, funding full day kinder is only one of the areas where we put money towards. It's not the only area. It is definitely, and Mr. Badul has made it very clear that it is a priority of our district to fund full day kinder. It is one of the areas.
Right.
And it's actually.
And it mentions all the other things with the band and so forth.
Oh, there it is, okay. Full day, okay. To continue.
I think in priority year two is also cleaning up the language itself. There are errors in there and they've been cleaned up. More concise, it has more. And again, the message is very clear here. You guys. whatever you can do.
Discussion.
Yeah, go ahead.
When we go to the community and this gets printed, this just looks a little wee.
So,
I think the more words, I'm big on terse. I'm really big on the fewer words, the better. Or it's a big ask. And if we're not validating our big ask, I think we hurt ourselves.
nothing's removed from the message, though. It's the same. In fact, we even say please and thank you in this message, which I
Well,
think
one's
is
194 words and one's 90.
something that's very important to our public. They will know that those words right there are important. Those shouldn't be left out.
Go ahead, Ms. Brown.
One of the areas that I don't see in your draft, Mr. Ramirez, has to do with the personnel associated with the expansion of facilities.
Then you can add that, you can modify it.
I would recommend.
Wait, I was gonna say that we could vote on this, and then if you needed to modify, if you saw anything afterward, you could always modify and bring it back, because you're the one that said that we have the time to do this.
We do have time.
You have time, you guys just want to vote on it today because we can't change whatever the verbiage is. That's what you're gonna sign on the certificate, so if we need to bring it back, we certainly could table it and bring.
Sure.
As opposed to voting.
All for that, that sounds good, give you a chance, Ms. Brown, to look at it and
We
see what you think.
combined, not combined, but blend them.
Yeah.
Will the
The
committee
winner.
be recalled or they're done?
This is not a draft that was put together by the committee. The
Okay.
committee put together the recommendation to continue with the override, same uses, same percentage. Actually, this pro statement came from the governing board that was with us at that time.
Yeah.
So it is really drafted by the board. It is your voice that is going to be in that board information pamphlet.
But the committee was using that as a reference.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. The committee was using it as a reference. The previous border information pamphlet is what they used as a reference to guide their discussions. So this was what was published in
Yes.
the information pamphlet at the time.
We could add that in anything else you think is necessary, but I think it has more punch to it. I think. It also, again, it has, the language is more polite and it's a better way of asking.
Well, we do have time and the board can look over the new version. And we-
So is this motion to table?
Yeah.
There's a motion on the table, right?
Yes, there's a-
One second.
Motion and a second, so I think we need to vote on it.
Yeah.
Okay, all those in favor say aye. All those opposed say nay. Nay,
It died when you made.
Dies.
Okay. it dies. Okay, now, motion to table. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, all those opposed say nay.
Did we get
Nice.
a second on the table?
Oh,
Yes, we did.
did we get a second?
You said it.
I said motion to table. And then should we get a second?
Yeah.
We did get a second.
Well, just now we got a second.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Ayes have it, motion passes. Okay, now we move on. Subject C, 2024-2025 proposed budget. And this is Brown.
Can you help me advance the presentation? So, good evening again. It is that time of the year where I bring to you a proposed budget. Unfortunately, given the amount of time that the legislature took in approving a state budget, the budget that I'm presenting to you comes in some preliminary forms. In other words, it does not have the final figures in certain items because they were not approved by the state in a timely manner. What does that mean? It means that before September 15th, I am going to bring back a revision to tonight's budget, incorporate the new changes, okay? With that said, I am highlighting in this slide the changes that you are going to see when I come back with the revisions. So the session ended on June 15th. At that time, when I put together the presentation for you, the forms were under development. I'm highlighting the statute that allows us to revise the budget by September 15 to be able to enact changes. Okay. Now, so what can you expect when I come back with that revision? The base support level, that is the amount of dollars that we received per student, were increased by 2%. They went from 4,914.71 to 5,013. That 2% is what the state is the minimum that they are required to increase the amount that we receive per student, and that's what they did for next year. The other area that they increase is the transportation route reimbursement per mile. It went from 237 to 242. And then the other area is the area of capital. District additional assistance is going to received an increase of $23.1 million. We still don't know exactly how much it's going to come to our district, but by the time I come back with a revision, we'll know. The forms will tell me. The other measure that was increased is, and this is fairly new, this was introduced last year. This is a free and reduced price lunch adjustment or weight that gives additional funding to school districts that have students that are eligible for free or reduced lunches. So, and Mr. Verdugo just a moment ago referenced to our district as a 90-90-90 district. So we have over 90% of our students that either qualify for free or reduced meals. So that is a good, it's a good weight for our district, and it does generate a good amount of money for us. But again, I'll solidify those figures for you when I have the final budget forms. The big item that was approved, and it's a good thing that the state did this, is approving the override to the constitutional aggregate expenditure limit. In our state, there is a limit that we cannot exceed in expenditures. And if we go over that limit, then the state has to approve us to go over that limit. If they choose not to approve, then we all would have to do a reduction to our budgets. To give you an idea, statewide, that would force school districts to reduce the budget by $3 billion statewide. It is just not possible. But unfortunately, the formula that they are working with was developed back in the 80s, and they have not modified it since then. So this is once again a Band-Aid, but they still need to look for a permanent solution to fix that formula, because this is going to be a problem next year again.
It's the one for which you fought hard to try to change.
And we continue
Last
to
year.
have those discussions in our organizations that we are members of. When we go to meetings, we express our concerns with this, and we want to make sure that they understand that they just can't keep doing this every year.
I believe you wrote a letter last year.
We did. So we'll continue, but at minimum for fiscal 25, we don't have to worry about this aggregate limit. Next slide. So I want to share with you the projections that I use to build the budget for next year.
And as I've mentioned in the past, the number of students that we served is the meat and potatoes of our budget, right? That is what tells us how much money we're going to receive. So my overall enrollment for next year that I'm estimating is 3,368. I'm estimating a decrease in enrollment of 69 students. And that is just based on census data, birth, for estimating kinder number of graduates at Rio Rico High School versus incoming students. I look at the number, what happens during the course of the year, students versus withdrawals, summer activity. I track that, and then that's what I use to be able to use a projection to build the budget. I also do some projections on some of the subcategories that also generate additional funding. We have what it's called a K-3 weight, additional funding for students that are enrolled in those grade levels. So I'm projecting 709 students for our district next year. The number of ELL students that are eligible to receive services in that category, I'm projecting at 690 students. Gifted is also another category that generates additional funding, 119. And then special education students, projecting 396 students in that area. On the other hand, this is not a projection, but it is an actual, and this is the Teacher Experience Index. I'm gonna go back a moment ago. Someone, I think it was Mr. Beach, mentioned that it's important to retain staff. It's important to keep staff, that it benefits no one to hire a math teacher and then have that person leave the district. It indicates when we have a Teacher Experience Index, that it's higher than the state. It tells me that we are retaining staff. This comes as a result of a report that is filed by our Human Resources Department with the state that submits years of experience for our teachers, years of service with our district. And then the ADE uses that data to develop or calculate a Teacher Experience Index. And as we all know, when you have staff with years of experience, payroll is more expensive than when you have teachers that are, in their first years. So when this index is over 1, then we get additional funding to help us offset that expense. So this is a good thing, and I think it shows that we are keeping teachers with years of experience. Thank you. Okay. So I'm going to move away from data points that I use to calculate the budget limits and moving into our expenditure plan in our main fund or operating fund. And the first item is the compensation plan. So one of the things that we try to do every year is to compensate our staff adequately. And we try to, we visit with neighboring districts. We kind of try to stay as competitive as possible, making sure that we are at or above inflation. Last year was at 3%. It's projected to be it's trending the same this year at 3%. So our recommendation, which you previously approved, previous board meeting, is to do a 5% salary increase for all staff. So that puts our staff above that inflation, which is a good thing. As a result of that, and to continue to attract those teachers that come from other neighboring districts, is we are doing a 2.5% adjustment to the certified placement guide. And then we are also allocating funding to absorb the 9% increase to our medical insurance premiums. I've always said that it's not fair to give a salary increase, but then pass down an increase in your cost of your benefits. So we always make it a priority to try to absorb that as much as possible, right, for the employee.
portion. I want to make sure that that is clear. Next, slide. Thank you. Salaries and benefits, staffing accounts for 80% of our operating fund. So we did, we're recommending some staffing changes. Everything that you see on your slide has been board approved, right? Tonight is just confirming that the funding is there to proceed with your recommendations. So just real quick, Rio Rico High School, 2 new security guards, 1 behavior specialist. In Calabasas, we are reducing 3 teaching positions due to drop in enrollment. We're adding an extra section for dance. In the area of teaching, learning, and assessing, we are restructuring the assistant superintendent position to a TLA director. Adding 1 new instructional specialist with an emphasis on assessments. We're allocating funds for consulting hours by Mr. Shadler. In student services, we're introducing a new instructional specialist for special education. And to the superintendent's office, we're adding a new safety and security coordinator. In human resources, a half-time office assistant to manage in-house subs to our district. Hire. So that's the second bullet, bringing outsourced substitutes back. And then we're allocating hours for consulting services by Ms. Quiroz. In the area of transportation, transportation is receiving a new mechanic assistant. And we have coding changes. It's what we call shell game in school finance. Some of the positions that was listed on the screen were previously funded by a grant. Some could be with ESSER, COVID one-time funding, and now we're bringing them back into our operating fund. So that is the case of 2 Rio Rico High School counselors, 1 Rio Rico High School success coach, 1 Rio Rico High School alternative ed position, 1 Rio Rico High School PE, 0.5 Rio Rico High School assistant principal, 1 Rio Rico High School equipment technician, 1 IT technician, 1 Calabasas reading specialist, for Cuatimundi, a 0.5 athletic coordinator and 0.5 sports performance position. For the elementaries, our PE team leader stipends, and then a 0.5 communications position, which is vacant, but still. Once we solidified salaries, benefits, compensation, staffing models, then we start to look at department needs and if there's a need to make an adjustment to their allocations. In this area, Mr. Verdugo requested an increase to the governing board allocation for professional development of $5,000. The Department of Technology, we are allocating a one-time allocation of $50,000 to conduct a district-wide assessment. Technology is an area that has, I guess, evolved drastically over the years. It used to be just making sure that the internet runs and the network's there. And now we find it in curriculum. And now we find it in safety. And now we find it, I mean, it's everywhere. So we felt when we were having budget discussions that it was prudent to hire an outside firm to come in and conduct an assessment. Not so much whether we have the right network, but do we have the right staffing? Are we approaching technology from correctly now that it's part of so many departments? So that's what that assessment or those $50,000 that are earmarked, that's what we're hoping to accomplish for next year. So that leaves behind the operating fund. Those are the main highlights, changes for next year. Now I'm going to move into our capital fund. And in our capital fund, the major highlights are always on the top is a curriculum rotation and instructional aids. We have 692,000 earmarked for that area, followed very closely by technology. $571,000 in technology, network, and non-instructional softwares. Then followed by facilities, $413,000. Then followed by transportation, $340,000. And we are including the purchase of two buses, one 84-passenger bus and one white bus as part of our vehicle rotation schedule. 169,000 for athletics, 94,000 for furniture rotation, 75,000 that we keep for miscellaneous capital request. It happens that maybe during the budget discussions in the fall, going into the winter, someone didn't think of a need. And then they start going into the school year and they realize something is not functioning, or they need something for their school. So we have a process in place where schools and departments can submit a capital request during the course of the year if something comes up. And that is $75,000. Then we have $25,000 going for fine arts, and we have $2.1 million in contingent. In the area of other funds, the classroom site fund, the amount per student was increased from 758 to 792. The allocation per fund in the base pay is $2.5 million, and the performance pay $765,000, and in the district and teacher initiatives, $753,000. The board approved already the plan, so the expenditures from each fund will be aligned and in accordance to the plan that you approved for next year. The bond, we are down to $1.8 million. It might be a little bit less than that. It really depends on the pool. If we're able to finalize the pool before the encumbrance period, then we'll have less money to roll for next year, unless any minor items with the bond. But we are pretty much at the end of our bond program. In the area of grants, the grants office is currently actively working on submitting the fiscal 25 applications. So those numbers have not been updated on the budget forms that you have in front of you tonight. Those are just pretty much a copy of fiscal 24, but we will be modifying them as we get our new grants applications with the new allocations approved by the state. Cash accounts were modified and aligned to cash on hand plus any projected revenue. So is tonight's proposed budget. Are there any questions?
Very clear. I appreciate it. And again, we're still going to be finding out more information. So thank you.
Thank you.
Vasquez?
Yeah, thank you for all the work you do, and it's very, like she says, very clear, very precise, and I know that you've told us that we are gonna be getting stuff, more numbers, more accurate numbers and stuff by September, you said, or something like that.
Yes, Ms. Vasquez, I have until September 15th.
Okay.
Come back with the budget, and then I'm going to come back since they're releasing the forms to come back at the end of July.
Okay.
That's my internal timeline. Bring back to you.
I mean, and we're in a good place right now, in other words, financially with our. We're solid, okay, with all of the things that we've purchased and all of the things that we're doing. Fantastic, great job as always. Thank you so much for everything you do and your team.
Mr. Ramirez?
Yes, that 5% increase to all eligible employees, teachers and administrators, right?
What I mean by eligible, Mr. Ramirez, is because our evaluation instrument says that someone can have memorized the one for certified staff, but I can tell you that in classified staff, if an employee receives a rating where they are meeting, not performing, they're not eligible for the supplement.
That include admin too.
I don't know the instrument for the admin if it's in, but for classified, they could be performing on all of them. And if one of them, they're not performing, it disqualifies them.
Okay, all right. This thing with the bus budget that we have there, did we ever get rid of that bus that had 500,000 miles on it? I mean, I'm not exaggerating, that sucker had 500,000 miles and that thing was like wet Kleenex, ready to fall apart.
No, I went to, I don't have memorized the bus rotation schedule, and I don't want to tell you something that I'm not sure of. But I can tell you that, while those engines are designed to run for many, many miles, some of our buses have received new engines, even though it's a very old model. Based on the recommendation of the transportation department, sometimes we get them a new engine or a new transmission. But yet the odometer continues to,
Yeah, to go.
it's the same odometer,
Continue.
not reset it to zero when you introduce a new engine in the bus or a new transmission. Now,
Telling me it might have 1,500,000.
I have or 200,000 on that new engine, I don't know. But I know that Mr. Jimenez has been working to rotate those buses and retire them. We are no longer keeping them in our inventory.
And electric buses?
Electric buses, I'm attending.
We had a
a
discussion
session-
once about that.
I'm attending a session on this upcoming summer ASBO conference on electric buses. I can tell you that as a board member with the trust, some of the districts that have acquired electric buses are struggling with them. So
It's interesting.
sometimes it's better wait to sit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Until they perfect it.
Others, have others with the issues before we we just need to be careful.
They occasionally blow up too.
Yeah.
We just had one last week. Georgia or someplace blew up.
They're having some issues with them, yes.
The consultants, is there a dollar figure for that? I didn't see anything.
Mr. Shadler and
The two consultant positions.
they have an allotment of hours. So, for Mr. Shadler, it's 120, I can tell you right now, the number of hours that was allotted. And the compensation is the hourly rate that they had in place when they left the district. So,
That figure too.
yes. 1 second. So 120 hours for Mr. Shadler. And that equates, and the number that I'm going to give you, Mr. Ramirez, includes cost of benefits. I mean, your Social Security, FICA, Medicare, so 7,605. And then. Ms. Quiroz in HR, 90 hours. And the cost of them is 5,678.
Thank you. Nelson? Thank you, Ms. Brown. Excellent, discussion and excellent presentation. You know, dot your T's, dot your I's, and congrats to you and your team for putting this budget together and getting it moving. Okay. Motion to approve the FY 2024-2025 proposed budget as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed say nay, and one abstain. Okay, motion passes. Moving on to subject D, SCV USD policies, and this is Ms. Lunderville. I have that.
Unless I have the old agenda.
I got it at the end.
Okay.
I got, subject D.
I had the one. We revised. It's gonna go up. Angie, can you guys use the PowerPoint when I sent? Good evening, Mr. President, members of the board. This is a carry forward topic from our study session. And I am just going to go through a couple of remaining code of conducts that we wanted to and determine how we want to move forward. You can go to the first slide, please. The first area that we wanted to discuss involved student dress, number 16. Currently, this is the current policy in 5305. Fairly straightforward. Based off of the conversations, there are two recommended changes to this policy. If you could go to the next slide, please. First recommended revision adds prohibited attire, which is also defined in our student handbooks. It's very specific, and the policy currently is not specific. And then secondary to that, if you could go to the next slide, please. Specifically related to headgear, we would add a second section to policy 5305, number 17, and specifically headgear. Headgear is defined in statute, anything that goes on your head. It could include, it could include religious types of headgear. This is a recommendation based off of all of the discussion during the study session, but the board certainly can choose to amend or if you can hold on 1 second.
So we got, the motion would be for number 16 headgear. States there. And also the prohibited attire, correct?
Correct. The prohibited attire is in addition to what is currently in policy 5305. If you look specifically, I believe it says that a student's dress or appearance shall not present health or safety problems, cause disruption, items of attire with obscene words, slogans or graphics or slogans related to drug or alcohol shall not be worn or displayed. And then it does say that they must wear footwear. If you can go back 1 slide, please. You can see here, we specifically bulleted out the recommendations, and I also added exposes the wearers mid-drip undergarments or undergarment areas to be specific. Also, we included streaking language because that's not in the current policy.
I'm just need some clarification on the recommended action. There's a number 16D headgear, but on it doesn't state prohibited attire on what I'm looking at right now. Let me see.
Oh, recommended motion. Yeah, we would need to approve
Add the prohibited attire.
and well, the prohibited attire is already included in the current policy, but this bullets out the prohibited.
Okay, so we need
No, I think if you approve it as presented, that would cover. Headgear was something that is brand new, that is not specific to the current policy.
okay, so that's, Ms. Fobian, do you have any discussion on headgear? The headgear one? No? Mr. Ramirez.
We're talking specifically, right?
His headgear, that's the first one.
Headgear, huh? I just want to say that I thought that your suggestion was really good, Mr. Beach. I thought you put a lot of good time and effort into good thoughts. The shame it can't be exercised, but I fully understand why Mr. Amigo brought some legit concerns regarding that. But I thought it was a really good idea. I did, and maybe we could revisit that in the future, maybe when we do have the funds to do such a thing. Thank you, sir.
I do think that it's important to note that I think just bringing light to the fact that we do need to do some education for our employees and our staff so that they understand, you know, in every community, there are some culturally relevant art and other things, and I think helping educate our administrators so that they can recognize when in fact those graphics may be inappropriate.
Maybe I should be clear here for the public, and because we're talking about things that we understand here, but just to be clear that the schools don't necessarily have the money to be buying caps for everybody with, you know, the school logo on it. It's kind of hard, but again, those are good points, but I liked your idea. That was a good idea.
I do know that the sites are looking into offering the ability right now, parents can buy school spirit shirts at the at the school sites. But I do know that they were looking into the cost of those additional type of headgear and things like that.
Anything else, Mr. Ramirez?
No, thank you.
Yeah, my main thing was with hats and beanies, because I did get a beanie for board recognition. Can't wait to wear it in the winter time. But just to promote unity, school spirit, having the students, staff design hats. And I saw the football coach wearing a big floppy hat with the logo on it. And it just promotes that school spirit that we're looking forward. I know Mr. Enrico brought up that, you know, right now the funds are tight. We don't know how to implement it yet. So I'm perfectly fine with the headgear proposal right now. And maybe in the future with our principals, just you know, with our future hats and beanies, etc., that maybe get the student input, staff input, and with their logos on it, and start promoting this. And I don't know about the elementary schools, but I know the high school has a bookstore. They can sell them in there with the t-shirts and stuff. But I think moving forward, that'd be something for discussion for our principals. Yep. Okay, any further discussion? Okay, motion one, approve the amendment of policy 5305, student conduct as follows, number 16D, headgear.
So moved. Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed say nay. Ayes have it. Motion carries. Now we're on to motion two, which is cell phones.
So please keep in mind when we get to the next section of the full agenda, the student books, that's when you'll be able to use the code of conduct does not delineate sort of punishment or anything like that. It's the definition of what is and is not allowed. And then when we move into the discipline section of the handbook, I'll be able to review the minimum and maximum consequences. That is something that I just wanted to clarify for the board. If you could go to the next slide, please. Our current policy, which we have reviewed a lot. It was revised, I believe, back in November of 2023, the first time. We added that students shall not record, transmit speech, and we modified some of the language pertaining to when students could and could not have cell phones in their possession. So as the policy currently reads, you can obviously see that. I made two, and they're very similar, but I tried to take Mr. Kramer had submitted some information. Mr. Ramirez, I know you submitted some information. The next two slides are simply suggestions. We can, but this is the current policy that the board can choose to amend. Recommendation, if you can go to the next slide, is very similar. It does list that we could confiscate, we will confiscate their phone if it is out. The main differences is that we added during school hours, students shall not use or attempt to use, and that was not in the, that is currently not in policy. And then second, included, a list. You can see their cell phones, smartwatches, personal computers, tablets. I'm sure in a couple of months, there'll be some new gizmo that they can use. Then now there's sunglasses that you can do things with. But these were simply recommendations. The governing board could choose to keep the current policy as written, and then we can review in section 2 of discipline, the actual things that can occur if a student violates them.
Okay. Ms. Linderberg, on revision 1 and revision 2, they're pretty identical, correct? I don't see no.
They're pretty similar.
So I know during our discussion, we were gonna take out, exceptions may be granted by a supervising adult in an emergency situation. Could we take that out on either proposal 1 and proposal 2?
Yes, can you go into the current policy? One more.
Would be in the red, the proposal 1, if we could just take out the, make them a little different. I know we discussed, just having a cell phone ban without granting anybody, teachers, admin, anything. Since they're identical, maybe on the proposal 1, if we just could take the exceptions may be granted by a supervising adult in an emergency situation. We take that out and then we just open it up for discussion. Before I open it up, I'll sort of clarify some things. The current policy does give the teacher leeway on whether to approve or disapprove cell phone use with that. If we take out revision 1, it reads, cell phones and other electronic communications during school hours, students shall not use or attempt to use any personal entertainment or communication device, including but not limited to cell phones, smartwatches, personal computers, tablets, etc. If seen, such a device will be confiscated by personnel. That would be taken out. Exceptions may be granted by a supervising adult in an emergency situation. So that would be out of the proposal 1. And it would be a student shall not record, photograph, or transmit speech or other communications of other persons without those persons express consent. Proposal 2 is identical to proposal 1, but it does leave in, exceptions may be granted by a supervising adult in an emergency situation. So those are, the 2 proposals right there, and we could leave the current policy. So I'll open it up for our discussion. Ms. Fobian?
You know, I don't have that much problem with the current version. I almost think that phrase in the 2 revisions, and again, this is gonna sound stupid, but the supervising adult, so you've got somebody who's 18 and goes, I'm your supervisor. I mean, I don't get it. Because in the current version, we've given the teacher who we would like to be in charge of the classroom the ability. So I think it starts getting fuzzy and weird when we move into a supervising adult?
You could also just take out, a student shall not have a cell phone or other electronic communication device during school hours. You could take out without the express.
Go ahead and just discuss it and then we'll decide. Ms. Vasquez? Okay, Mr. Ramirez?
First of all, I don't really see many of the things that I mentioned, but that's okay. As I said before, we can have some kind of policy. The key element here is whether it's going to be enforced or not. So that was one of the reasons that I liked Mr. Beach's proposal. Because he had a list of, if you recall, first offense, second offense, and so forth. So I really like that one, Mr. President. If I had my druthers, I would bring those three things back onto here, because I like them. They were clear, very clear as to what happens with the offenses. Otherwise, it looks pretty much the same and it's gonna remain the same. Well, then I can't help but asking the obvious, which is, why did we spend hours and hours and hours discussing all of this? We're just going to return to the same thing. And bring you back to that quote that I gave you by Einstein about, I don't remember exactly, but you continue to do the same thing over and over. You can't expect to get different results. So if we leave this as it is and we just continue with the status quo, nothing is going to change. I guarantee you, nothing will.
Let me just clarify one thing.
Yeah, so I want to say I still have the floor.
Yeah, if I could.
Yes.
Just, this is a policy, but as she stated earlier, the repercussions for the cell phone when they confiscate it is separate than the policy.
Right, but that, I heard you very clearly. You mentioned that those things are listed in discipline, right? But those are the same things from the past too. So there's no real difference here. And when you mentioned the words, Ms. Linville, you mentioned the words that had been changed. Those are real minor changes. I agree with you. You and I discussed some of those things too, about words like ban and so forth like that. And I appreciate that. But the policy itself, no different. And again, it brings us back to, if it's no different and we're just going to continue doing the thing over and over, why don't we discuss it? Why throw it out there? Why make me feel like, or anybody here in the governing board feel like, well, what we're going to say is going to make a difference if we're going to return right back to the same old deal. And it's just, I feel like it's just us banging our heads against a brick wall and getting nowhere. Then I just can't help but thinking of that Albert Einstein quote. Things have to change. If there's no enforcement, and as Mr. Beach had pointed out very clearly in his proposal, those first, second, and third sentences, which I really liked, you know, I could really live with that. And it would just come down to strict enforcement. You know, which falls under the purview of the superintendent and his team. But I like Mr. Beach's things there because there was clear, you know, the first offense, second offense, third offense, the things that would happen. I like that a lot. And I do want to say this, Ms. Hoban and Ms. Vasquez and Mr. Beach, I do appreciate the feeling that all of us have, not just you guys, but me too. I have, like, I'm tired of this. I want to get somewhere. And I don't want us to leave tonight without doing something, voting on it. Because I think we need to move on. We have spent a lot of time on it. Mr. Kramer's been real critical of that too, and I agree, and even Mr. Beach, and we need to do something, but I would really like Mr. Beach's 3 bullet points on there that he had. If we could please have that on there, just asking.
We could bring it up for a future board item as far as discipline matrix.
Could we just add those tonight and vote on it?
Discipline matrix is in the topic. You can add them to the discipline matrix, which is the next topic.
Okay.
so we can.
So consequences go in the discipline section. So when we get to that section, you can go to number 30. You look at the minimum, you look at the maximum. If you want to be specific in that regard, you can. There's nothing to say you cannot put consequences in policy, but it just typically is an explanation of what is and is not allowed. And then the matrix affords you that latitude to make that decision.
Right. I like that, by the way, because it reminds me of what we had talked about. You were saying that something needs to be done because this has become only an issue here within our own backyard, but a big issue within the nation that's gaining more and more support. And so we can't let the grass grow under our feet on this one.
So I think when we get to that section, that would be a more appropriate place, because if not, you're delineating, you're gonna have one policy with consequences and then your entire discipline matrix. Does that make sense? Yeah, you can definitely add those. If you want there to be a progression in that way, we can add that to the matrix.
In this meeting, right?
It's in the next topic.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Ms. Vasquez?
Yeah, I also wanted to say that I do like the current policy, but I did want it to be kind of like, we need to put in there, like right here, it says that the students can't use and this is the front, okay, and this one. Our students shall not use cell phones or other electronic devices during class time. And it was really specified because right here, it leaves it open for the kids to use it during passing times, okay? So if we change the wording here to put it like the revised part where it says that students shall during school hours. You know what I'm saying? During school hours, because if it says during class time, they're gonna say, well, I'm not in class. I'm in between.
Okay, so you're talking passing time is.
Passing time, because because what we really don't want the kids to do is use it during the school day. I mean, basically, So I was just thinking like the first, the current policy, which is this one, but changing where it says during class time, changing it to during school hours. During school hours. Because that's basically what we were talking about, that's what we wanted. And then the other part is that, that I like on the top part is the part where the students should keep their cell phones, in their, purses or in their backpacks at all times, turned off, because that's what we want. We want them, to me, this is the way I see it, okay, as a parent or whatever. I want my child to have a cell phone because if I want to get a hold of them, like we've always said, I want to be able to get a hold of them. But if this is the policy as a parent, I would understand. And I would call the office and the office say, can you please have my child turn on the phone because I need to talk to them or whatever, or have them call me or whatever, okay? But, like if my child is gonna play sports or be in an after-school activity, their offices are closed at a certain time. So we want the kids to be able to locate their parents or the parents locate the child, when it's not school time. Okay, and I see the way that we've always said that, okay, and again, we've been talking about this so much, and I strongly believe that we need to educate our teachers. That's the way, we're not gonna be playing this little game that, I want you to like me, so go ahead and use your phone, and it doesn't matter, okay, that it matters, okay? I've never had a problem, I never had a problem with the phones, and every single student had a phone in my class, but those were my rules. That was my classroom, and I dealt with it in a classroom setting. So as long as we educate the teachers so that they can do something like that, then I don't think we're gonna have a problem with this policy changing. That's just me.
I think for some of the high school students, it won't be a matter of re-education, but for K-8 and 9th grade, they have never been permitted to have their phones out during.
Exactly, in the other, because it comes from the middle schools, because, and in middle school, those are the policies and they are enforced over there. And then it changes when they come to the high school because, Because it does, I don't know why. But anyway, this is the only thing that I think that I would really, really change. And then, you know, the part of the recording and all that stuff, so that's my intake.
Thank you, Ms. Vasquez.
Thank you.
Yeah, I would, advocate for proposal one. Taking out the exception, may be granted by a supervising adult in an emergency situation. Or the current policy, taking out, where is it? Taking out without the express permission of the teacher. It would just be a cell phone ban. So we're taking it out. The literature that I've read
Mhm.
so far, Surgeon General of the United States says that cell phones at schools are calling it, increased anxiety, depression, suicide, lowering of test scores.
Yep.
We just saw last week, LA's, the largest school districts up there are banning cell phones, okay? I've read several articles that the superintendent shared with me, and they say if you allow a teacher or admin permission, it's wishful thinking. Because in my class, I'm gonna say, hey, yeah, Mr. Beach, can I use my cell phone? No, but I wanna use my cell phone. Okay, go ahead and use it. It's not a ban, okay? So just making it a cell phone ban across the board, I think it makes it easier for teachers to hold other teachers accountable, administration to hold teachers accountable. And I'll give you an example at my school. There's a certain teacher, I'm not gonna say his name on camera, but he was allowing the kids to use, we have an all-out ban on cell phones, and electronic devices, using the little ear pods for music. They came into my class and said, you know, hey, there's a policy in place. You guys need to take that out of your ear. No, Mr. Beach, because such and such lets us use it. I said, it's a policy. If a principal comes in, I'm gonna get in trouble, take them off. But Mr. Beach, I said, look, psychologists do say you can only think one thing in your brain at a time. So if you're listening to music, trying to learn the quadratic formula, it just ain't gonna work. Okay, so little back and forth, because another teacher didn't adhere to the rules. So I went to the teacher and told him, Mr. Such and Such, there is a policy that there's no electronic devices. I apologize, Mr. Beach, I'm gonna enforce it. Went to our staff meeting. At the staff meeting, our principal says, just a friendly reminder, there's no electronic devices, including cell phones, in our classes. So if we allow that to be in there, teachers, at the discretion of the teacher, in an emergency situation, it's just gonna open up the floodgates to
Yeah.
the same old, the students are gonna be using teachers are gonna find a way around it, students are, what dictates an emergency? I can't hear Khan Academy, so I'm gonna plug in my earphone. So I would take out, it's up to the board. If we're gonna keep the current policy, take out, a student shall not use cell phones or other electronic devices during class time, period. Take out time without the express permission of a teacher.
Yeah, I agree with that, but I'd also like to go back to what Mr. Vasquez said, because I think we can't ignore that. She has to really, I agree with her. It has to say school hours.
Okay,
Change that too.
we can add that.
During school hours.
I mean, if I had my druthers, I'd have a real bad, and we're playing around with that word bad, by the way. Bad in California may be different from bad in Arizona, but I talked to superintendent about that. Bad here in Arizona meant what we're trying to accomplish tonight, not allowing, phones to be used during school hours, but a real ban is a ban. You don't allow them to come in. I mean, we're not gonna go that route. I realize that, but if I had my druthers, that's what I would do, because let's say are the products of, at least those of us that went to school, didn't have a phone, are the products of a failed system. We got through and we did just fine. We had emergencies that I had, my own personal emergency with my mom. And we still got through and made it fine. So I don't even think that that's such an extreme anymore. And some places are pushing for that. But it seems like we're taking this route. So if we're gonna take this route, I agree with Ms. Vasquez then. we have to say during school hours, but I like Mr. Beach's idea too.
Okay, so with the board, if we can add Ms. Vasquez,
School hours
school hours and take out
without the express.
without the express permission of the teachers.
And also, I think that if we're adding like all of the devices, you know, like it says here, tablets, computers, smartwatches, cell phones, we need to put down earbuds. And be specific.
That
Well,
fall
it says
under-
electronic devices, so
I can read back what I might memorialize what you said thus far.
Go ahead.
Say again?
Would you like me to read back what I think?
Yes.
Yes, please.
During school hours, a student shall not use a cell phone or other electronic device, period. A cell phone, or other electronic communication device shall be turned off and placed in the student's purse or backpack. A student shall not record or transmit speech or other communication of any other person, period.
So you're also taking out without the consent, yeah, because then that means that you're giving.
Because I wouldn't come to you and say, can I record you when I'm not supposed to have my phone out?
I'm not supposed to have my phone out, yeah.
No.
Okay.
Are we going to list the electronic devices or no?
Is that a cell phone or,
Cell phone or
stated that when she started, she said that.
yeah, other electronic,
Or is a student shall not use a cell phone or electronic device? A cell phone or other electronic communication device shall be turned off and placed in the student's purse or backpack. A student shall not record or transmit speech or other communications of any other person.
Yes, sir. I don't.
go ahead, Mr. Bernard.
Could we possibly add, except the school assigned Chromebook? You cannot use any electronic device except the school assigned Chromebook.
I don't necessarily think that's needed because
Yeah,
they're.
That's what everybody has, yeah.
It's up to them.
No, it's.
Well, they had her to cell phones.
Yeah, I think
Yeah, I think the Chromebooks, they're.
it's, yeah.
Thanks for sharing there, John. Okay,
I'm sorry.
so. Motion to approve, let's see, approve the amendment to policy 5305. Student conduct as follow, cell phones and other electronic communications, which would be,
During school hours, a student shall not use a cell phone or other electronic communication device. A cell phone or other electronic communication device shall be turned off and placed in the student's purse or backpack. A student shall not record or transmit speech or other communications of any other person.
as stated by Ms. Lunderman. The motion,
So moved.
Second.
motion and a second, any further discussion?
Yeah. Something which is that. I'm sorry, I think this is important that. Once again, we have to hammer away at the fact that if this is not enforced. This is gonna be real, so this all falls on the principals, and especially poor Mr. Canoy who wants to. Go through probably the first 2.5 months, it's gonna be really, really rough. Because we're changing the culture here. Trust me when I tell you that back where I am, I'm sure Mr. Beaton, I'm sure there's even Miss Brown who has a child. Yep. This is not an easy task. This is gonna be rough,
It is.
and it takes a couple of months at least that, a lot more before. We change that culture, but I wanna say on the positive side, Mr. Canoy. that there are a lot of really nice rewards that come afterward from such a thing, because that's how we feel. Well, I mean, I'll tell you, Mr. Beach can vouch for that, having worked down there, that it's just like night and day, and you wouldn't believe how nice it is later on, once it's established. It's a pain, I admit, I'd be the first one to admit. You're looking to Mars for you. And I don't have to be the Mars. It's not easy, but I mean, you have to do something. On what's going on in the nation, but also within our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ramirez. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Ayes have it, motion carries. Thank you, Ms. Lunderville. Now, subject E, student handbook. Ms. Lunderville. Dr. Lunderville.
President members of the board. And we move on to section, sections. The definitive is section 2 revised 625. All of the school handbooks, the first sections that were included in your board packet are updated and addressed at the site level. Administration reviews that has pickup times, school colors, who to call in the attendance office, all of those types of things. The other portion of the handbook is and always has been district-wide consistently listed. So it while they're looking for that, section 2 of the discipline handbook talks about general behavioral expectations, consequences for disciplinary infractions. You can also note the student code of conduct that we just reviewed with some of the recommended changes proposed, but the approved changes that you just made will be reflected in the document as well. So it does go through the student code of conduct, and then it also talks about, you can go to page 5. It specifically has disciplinary actions. It's not in order of how these disciplinary actions occur. It's recommended or suggested options that administration may impose depending on the level of the infraction of the mitigating circumstances. So as you can see, there's alternative to suspension, community service. I'm not going to read them all, but those are some of the disciplinary actions that can occur should the student violate one of the policies outlined in policy 5305 in our student code of conduct. It also talks about scope and authority. In the absence of the parent, the district has the right to search, to seize, within reason. We don't strip search in this district, but within reason, we can go and look, take and view anything we would like to that a student has on their persons. If you could go to page 7.
Page 7 is right here.
Page 7 is our revised discipline matrix. This is also going to be new for our current code of conduct. This is now aligned to our matrix. And these are recommendations. So you can see if you violate number 1, that is disruptive conduct. The mandatory minimum consequences for that infraction are verbal warning, and the parent needs to be notified. That is at the bare minimum. Does that make sense? Yes. So if you would like to look at number 30, cell phones, the minimum consequence is confiscating that device. If you would like to get specific and identify for repeat offenders, you certainly can do it. In our district, discipline is cumulative. Please remember that. So if I'm an 8th grader and I have my phone out and I when the student gets to 9th grade, technically an administrator could utilize those prior bad acts to enforce an additional, they could go to step 2. It's not a clean slate every single year, just because the year has started over. So I think at the minimum, what the district is, what we are telling families, and every parent signs off on this, and the student, and it's also reviewed multiple times throughout the year. But it is reviewed specifically with students at the high school level during English lesson, that first week of school.
So I think, one of the board members had a question on number 30, cell phones and other electronic communications. What I see here is a confiscation of device, parent guardian notification. So that would be the discipline.
That's the mandatory consequence. That means that the administrator who is giving the discipline, that is what mandatory first offense consequence would be.
This first consequence.
Now, does that include the parent must come in to retrieve the cell phone? Or is they just use a phone call saying your son, daughter was caught with a cell phone?
If you want to specify that, you can. We could, instead of it saying parent guardian notification, it could say parent guardian pickup, but right now, the expectation would be that we're not going to return that to the student. The parent would need to pick it up, but that would be implied, in my opinion. I think if we want to be specific.
Very specific. Specific.
I could see someone when I called and I was getting on the bus, so I gave it back to her. If I imply, you can imply it multiple ways, so if we want to be specific and say parent guardian must retrieve cell phone,
Yeah.
you can definitely.
Okay, we could add that. Ms. Tobin, were you fine with it?
Yeah, I think we had discussed that in the study session.
Yeah.
Ms. Vasquez?
Yeah, me too. I think it has to be, it needs to be very clear to the parents so that the parents are aware. Because they are gonna sign it and you're gonna have those parents that are gonna say, well, I never even read it. What can you say? I mean, but you signed it, so then you agreed with everything that was there. And if it's there and it's very clear, then there's really no argument.
Ms. Vasquez, this is a document. If we go to a hearing, that I go in front of the hearing, I'll say, did you sign this?
Yes.
But I didn't read it. I didn't ask you that. My question was whether or not you signed it.
Signed it or not,
Acknowledge the rules and
you acknowledged, yeah.
Mr. Ramirez?
Yeah, well, again, I liked what you had to say and your was more specific even. And they really, if they had to live up to that, I think there would be, there are more consequences. There are very clear consequences too, and steps. Taking it steps for what the proposal that you made. And so those, you were talking about this before, and Dr. Lunderville, you said that we could put that in here, right? This part.
you certainly can.
So that I would like to see Mr. Beach's, the three things that he had put down. The three specific offenses, because then that's super specific. And then when they sign off on it, as you say,
Yeah, then it's.
then, hey, you're coming in here and barking at us, but you signed off on this and here it is. You know, like you say, you just, here you go.
Mhm.
So,
And one of the things that the teachers can do, like the English teachers or the language arts teachers or whatever, make sure that the kids understand, show this to your parents, because that's gonna happen.
right, see what you're doing. You're looking for what Mr. Beach's proposal was, which is good. Thank you.
If I may.
But yeah,
I have it. I don't.
So
That's Angie.
discussion with the principals on this, my feeling was that parents must come in to retrieve phone. That's when they're gonna talk to them. I'm implying that the second offense, same student, the punishment might be a little bit more severe, maybe
A week.
taken away for a week.
right, that's-
Is there a reason that you would move to a week as opposed to just suspending the student and then?
Well, this is what I'm getting at. So if I'm hearing correctly from our study session with the principals, that cell phone devices, parent guardian notification, parent must come in to retrieve phone. Okay. That's where they're gonna have the discussion with the parent. It puts them out just a little bit with the student. And after that, if it's the same student, they sort of up the suspension if they so deemed you're suspended for 5 days. But it gives the principals a leeway on the discussion.
Could you scroll down on that? I was reading it. Put down there, the A, B, and C. See, that's what I thought was just so clear, so clear.
I do think it takes away some of the administrator. To me, if the student has been caught once, the parents picked it up, at that point, I don't know if we want, this is just my opinion. I don't know if we want to get into trying to store cell phones. I think it immediately moves to your infraction of you're suspended. Now the parent has to come pick up the cell phone and their kid, and they're going home for 3 to 5 days.
Yeah, looking just,
Is that any different from what we currently have?
our
It doesn't, it isn't spelled out that clearly.
the current is
It's just,
on number
I believe
3.
the minimum is that it gets taken away and the parent is contacted. How it progresses from there, it's not defined.
No, there's a suspension involved. Is that what you're saying?
Could potentially, I think that is at that point, if you meet with the student as an administrator, the kid is clearly remorseful and doesn't do it again. But then some kids you'll have come back the next day and it's the same story. So taking their phone and trying to keep it in a certain place for a certain period of time. I don't know why we just wouldn't suspend the student at that point.
See, that's what I like about Wrath, is that it says first, second, and third, right? Boom, 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 right, in order.
Yeah. I'm just gonna walk back what I'm still hearing from our principals during our study session, that they wanted a little leeway, and this might be too harsh of a punishment. So I hear where Mr. Ramirez is saying, and my first thought was make it harsh, that way the students get the message. But from our study session, I'm hearing that the principals or who's ever administering discipline, that they would parent notification, come in, retrieve the phone. And then if it happened again, they have the leeway to, instead of the first suspend, they could suspend the kid for 5 days. They would have leeway on the discipline.
Mitigating.
I would probably, my recommendation would probably just add the parent must come in to retrieve. But, you know, I'm just sort of walking back in what I heard from our study session. But I understand, Mr. Ramirez, where, yeah, I mean,
The maximum will be a long-term suspension, just like any other repeat infraction. Also, please keep in mind if students violate multiple codes of conduct, you don't just, so if this is the first time that they have had their cell phone out, but the 5th time that they've been sent to the office, they might be suspended right then. It's dependent upon all of those other factors, if that makes sense.
It does.
And having something very specific just for the cell phones kind of makes it a little more challenging to pull all of that together and say, you know what, Mr. Beach, I know this is the first time we're taking your phone and your parents need to come pick it up, but you also have been up here 3 other times for X, Y, and Z. So you moved on and you're on a 5-day or whatever it is.
Whatever the next step is.
okay. Anything else, Ms. Linderman?
We didn't know if anyone had any other questions about the code of conduct. It's also on 25305. And due process procedures, one thing I do want to point out on page 9 is that there have been ARS 13/24/11 have been added to the code that states that a student who is 7 years of age or younger may not be suspended. Specific criteria in there. We've also streamlined our due process procedures before they read them, were very cumbersome for our families. I think that this on pages 9 and 10 streamlined.
That's about it?
I think that's about it. Again, our principals do have unilateral authority to extend up to 9 days. Anything after that, the governing board is required to be notified from suspension, none of that has changed.
So the only revision, if I'm correct, would be the cell phones adding parent must come in to retrieve phone, correct?
It also would be incorporating the changes previously approved in policy 5305 by the government, in the previous.
This, okay, which is the red?
So motion to approve the student handbook for all school sites to include the approved revision to policy 5-305, section 2 of the 2024-2025 handbook.
So moved.
Second,
And a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Oh, wait, Mr. Ramirez.
First, I'd like to thank all who made all the changes that we talked about in the study session, because a lot of those weren't mentioned right now. So the corrections that were made, I appreciate I looked it over and I saw that they had changed the date and all the things that we suggested. So I want to thank all the principals for having made those changes. Secondly, I just want to say that this is all of it is going to come right back down to whether the student, because there are serious consequences, as Mr. Beach pointed out, they're going to feel that, hey, there's been a big change made and there's some sort of healthy fear factor. So these changes don't make that, they don't work. Just revisit this issue again, and I don't want to go there, so. I'm asking all the principals to please enforce the rule, so that if we go up, whether, doing things the way Dave asked us to. With regard to visit the schools, we don't see that kind of stuff. And granted, it's gonna take a while, but I'd like to really see it cleaned up. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ramirez. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All the opposed say nay. Ayes have it, motion carries. Subject F, propose and prioritize topics and possible dates and time for future board meetings. Lunderville.
You have two requests, one would be to hold a special meeting on July 1st and July 15th at 8 AM. Consultation with you this afternoon, and talking with HR, there were not requests that needed to go to the board. However, was to approve that special meeting should that happen in the next couple of days. But the July 31st meeting, again, you can set until 5 only if the July 31st would be resident and needed.
Okay. Well, you say the July 1st, we could scratch out? Is that
Would
what?
be under the board. There were many requests. I can submit the memo.
Swobin, you have any
I have nothing but
add or
future topics or on
future topics or?
I'm happy with the list that we have.
Okay. Ms. Vasquez?
So am I.
Mr.
Just to clarify, sorry, just to
Yep.
clarify, are we going to be having a meeting on July the 1st and the 31st? Or
No.
are we going to take off to July 1st?
Take off the July 1st.
Okay. Just to, okay, so
And
then,
those would just be those quick telephonic meetings.
okay, all right, thank you.
Mr. Ramirez?
Yeah, I think that. Well, I've been hearing that. We were told anyway by the county superintendent that there's not to be any more discussion with regard to the alleged $4+ million that disappeared from the coffers of our county. And we were told that, well, the feds have an investigation going on. And because it's ongoing, that we can't provide you any more information, but I lodge to, we have a moral obligation to discuss this. And I feel that more can be done, and I don't think that that should be used as universal panacea. This money that has disappeared. And dollars to donuts. We'll never get all that money back. But I think that we should have a discussion with regard to that issue. It's too important. And I'm hearing from people in the public that they want to hear us have that
We
discussion.
can have that.
We can add that.
Okay.
Also, Mr. President, I request that it be prioritized because things are moving quick. We have to defend our interest here in District 35.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
I have nothing. Okay, so the only thing we need to approve be motion to hold special governing board meeting for hire purposes on Wednesday, July 31st, 2024 at 8 AM.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed say nay. Ayes have it. Motion carries. And we are now up to construction update. Dr. Lunderville and Ms. Jennifer.
Westgleese.
Westgleese. There you go.
I guess I should say.
Good evening, Dr. Lunderville, Mr. President, members of the board. Thank you for having us again here this month for the construction update. My name is Jennifer Westgleese with ADM Group, Principal and Director of Architecture. With me today, again, we have Mr. Edgar Parra from Breckenridge, our partner company with some of these projects. And then I also have one of our new ADM Group, Mr. Whitney Hale. So moving into our construction update, we have two projects to update you on today. The first is the ongoing work at the new CTE field house that is going to feature new restrooms, new locker rooms, weight training facility, and a flexible classroom space that can be used in many different configurations. This. Here. Okay, so again, these photographs are about a week old because I have to submit my presentation a week before the meeting. So even today, we saw much significant progress from these photos that were a week ago. This is a shot of the interior of one of the locker rooms. You can see that the framing on the ground there, that is the formwork for the locker bases. That concrete has now actually been poured and all the forms are stripped off. You can also see the walls are being, all the drywall is up, that they're taped. And they were prepping for paint in this case. As of right now, the walls actually are all painted. And they have started laying the ceiling grid in the ceilings as well. And that ceiling grid work is going to continue for about another week. In about 2 weeks, once we get permanent power established to the site, they will be able to start up some of the HVAC units and then start installing some of the final finishes. This is a shot of one of the restrooms. As you can see, the wall tile is pretty much 100% complete, and now they're moving on to grouting. And again, the whole ceiling and upper wall portion area now has actually been painted. We saw that today. Just another picture of this is the coach's restroom off of the coach's office, which is a single user restroom, which will have a shower for the coaches use. This is a shot of some of the other rooms, the shot on the left there with the red tile. That is in the, what we are calling the weight room or the PE facility room. Where that red tile is where a drinking fountain will be. And then on the right-hand side is photographs of the large multi-use classroom space. The overhead track there, for the office partition that we installed in some areas. This is a shot, kind of from the switchback ramp, showing a shot over the top of the building. You can see that the roofing, they don't have the final layer on. They're gonna wait till it gets a little further along, but the roof is essentially dried in. All the units are on the roof. They're working on terminating the flashing up the side of the wall. And then soon we will have after the building gets painted, excuse me, we'll put the coping cap on top of those parapet walls that are screening those units. Sure, yes. So what has started this week, Monday morning and Tuesday morning, and then again, they're coming back, I believe, on Thursday morning. We are starting the pouring of the hardscape, the concrete around the building. So they do that in multiple pours. They have to pour when it's early, when it's not raining. Temperatures at a certain level. So we're gonna work their way around the building. And we are currently working on a design revision between the front of the building and the football field, so that there is immediate access from the concrete to the football field for events like graduation, when you have a large number of people or students flowing through there, so they're not walking through the dirt. And then let's see, and so that is the end of that project. Before we move on to the pool facility, are there any questions on that project? Yes.
Yes, I have a question, I'm sorry. Yeah, okay, for where you had the next one, the one after that one right there, okay. You say that they haven't poured anything on there. What about when it's raining? Will it affect it in any way?
Not at this point. It's just really the top coat, the final top coat that that provides that reflectivity for that's required by code, and but the roof is draining very well.
Okay. So when it rained and nothing happened to it, nothing was damaged or anything like that. Okay, that was my question. Thank you.
Bobby?
Yeah, on slide 8, the next one, with our rains hopefully starting, how far along are we on this?
On the hardscape, so they have the concrete the north side of the building is complete. The east side of the building is I'd say about 75% complete. Then on Thursday morning, I think they're gonna continue along the south side of the building. And then next Tuesday, they will coming back to start to complete the west side. That will take a few different pour days because there's a couple of different level changes. So they'll come back and pour one level with certain form work, and then they have to come back and strip that out and then do new form work for the slight it's a ramp, but it's not really a ramp. It's just a decrease, transition in grade there. And then there'll also be a small set of stairs.
It's gotta be affected by rainfall.
It has not really been affected yet.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, there was some rain, I think, early this morning, and that did not affect them at all. The rain stopped before the concrete pour started at 3 a.m. So far, there has been no delays on any of the rains that have started this weekend.
How wide are the sidewalks?
The concrete areas right in front of the building are 16 feet wide.
Oh, so they're really wide, okay.
And then they vary a little bit as they go around, but the main part at the west side of the building where the majority of traffic will be is.
So it is pretty wide, okay, thank you.
Mr. Rivers?
I have nothing, thank you, sir.
Okay, I have nothing, Jennifer.
Okay, all right, we will fast forward here into the pool facility. So
Yes, hi.
okay.
Good evening. Thanks for having us. Again, I'm Edgar with Breckenridge Group. And to start off with the building is complete. And we were just pending the connection to the alarm system. And pending that, now that the district has approved the purchase order to move forward, we can schedule our final inspection with the county to approve and be able to inhabit the building. The pool filter did arrive and it will be installed tomorrow. With that said, and kind of the holiday, the pool plastering will be in the week of the 8th. And the pool will already be being filled at that point. It's estimated about 2 weeks to complete the plastering process and letting the sediments settle and clean it up. And after that, there's about 2 more weeks estimated for the chemical balancing. And right now, the estimated date to say that you can have people swimming is the first week of August or so. The only outstanding issue, I guess, and not really an issue, but we're waiting to settle the contract with who you guys would proceed with the propane provisions. So now that that's been settled, we're working on coordinating the permits required for that and moving forward with AmeriGas and working with Tubec Fire as well as the state fire marshal to meet the requirements for the propane tanks that will be on the northwest corner of the property, northeast, sorry.
Any discussion, Ms. Fogarty?
No questions, thank you.
Sorry if there were.
No, I'm happy that we finally got the part that we've been expecting since, you know.
Here's some more pictures.
The splash pad,
Oh,
splash pad is operational. John Knoip and John Fanning had a little water war, but
I just had two, so.
a water.
then you can see all the fencing from construction is down and then the splash pad is ready and all the site amenities have been added. That includes the bleachers, the diving boards, the ladders, the shade canopies, the gravel around the site, and general landscape is complete as well. So it's ready. It was just awaiting the filter arrival, so.
Yeah, looks really nice. It looks really nice.
Ms.
Thank
Vasquez,
you. I'm good.
Okay, Mr. Ramirez?
I have nothing. Thank you, sir.
I have nothing. Thank you. Thank you for all your hard work. The team is coming along and let's keep it moving.
Slowly but surely.
Yep. I appreciate it. Thank you. Have a good evening. Subject B, superintendent's report.
All of our authorities, with the exception of a little hiccup that we found this week with electricity.
Subject C, governing board members report, Ms. Fogarty.
In the interest of time, I'd like to say that it said that the swimming pool filter is huge. That is wonderful. So let's have everything continue to go on time now. Thank you.
Ms. Vasquez.
Same thing. I'm just so happy that that filter got here. I mean, it's a shame that it took so long, you know, for us to get it. And the kids will not, you know, enjoy it for the amount of time that we were expecting. They should have enjoyed it also, you know, and stuff. But I attended a conference up in Flagstaff a few weeks ago, and I just wanted to. It was a really good one. It has a lot of good ideas and stuff, and I will, you know, talk to some of you and kind of relay what was going on. But it was really, really good. I was up there for 4 days, so really nice. Thank you.
Mr. Ramirez.
Yes, thank you, sir. After graduation, I learned that Justin Ibarra is our chess coach at Rio Rico High School. And I didn't know that. They told me, but pretty happy to find out that he's on his team because he's somebody who really knows how to play the game and he's well versed. And so I think he's doing a really good job there.
Since we're talking about time, we can revisit a couple norms. We can have a norm nudger, meaning if anybody starts getting off topic, once they of course stop, just politely bring us back to the agenda items, because I know some of us will all go out on tangents. So that might help future meetings. And also, I think we're doing a great job on hearing all voices. But we need to also be open to different perspectives, okay? Because I'm not totally in agreement with Mr. Ramirez or Ms. Fobian or Ms. Vasquez or Mr. Kramer. But if we disagree on stuff, but once the vote is taken and we accept or not accept the agenda items, we gotta move forward. Okay, so just keep that in mind as we move. That's all I have.
Also, just along those lines, not having people, we can't have people in the public.
Right, I was gonna tell them, talk to the public with my.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
can't, that's,
No,
can't start.
yeah.
It's
If
policy.
he would have went on, I was gonna say, members of the public have to do it. But, yeah. Thank you for identifying that. Consent agenda. Approval of consent agenda. Any matter on the consent agenda will be removed from the consent agenda and discussed as a regular agenda item upon the request of any board members. Ms. Fobian, do you have any?
Nothing I'd like to remove, no.
Okay, and Ms. Vasquez?
Nothing.
Mr. Ramirez?
I have nothing.
Okay, I do have one, and that'd be the hire of Angel Vidal, Assistant Principal of Athletics. Since you stayed here for the 2 hours sitting there steaming, if you could just come up, introduce yourself and take it from there.
Good evening, school board president, school board members, assistant superintendents. My name is Angel Vidal. I'm coming in from Douglas. I was eventually gonna move to Rio Rico. My girlfriend just lives up the hill, and so I look forward to working with athletics at Rio Rico. And one of my biggest things is to move athletics to the next level. In other words, work hard to get to state, work hard to get these kids to not only be good human beings, but also be the best that they can.
Ms. Fobian, do you have any questions?
I don't. Welcome. It sounds like you have a heart for students, so that's great.
Vasquez?
Welcome. You're gonna love it here. Rio Rico is the best place to be. District 35 is the best place to be, and we've got the best kids, and you'll find that out later on. Are you also gonna be doing like assistant principal?
Assistant principal,
Like in charge of something or whatever?
athletic director.
And athletic director, okay. Okay, well, welcome to Rio Rico.
Thank you.
Mr. Ramirez?
Yeah, welcome. And you have your work cut out for you, that's for sure. So, and if you ever get a chance to wrestle this guy right here.
Yeah.
You'll have fun.
Done right.
He was telling me about some of the athletes back in my high school days, Toro Luna, the Molinettes, that he wrestled against, so.
Yeah. But again, welcome. And thank you.
Thank you.
And welcome, Angel. I'm very familiar with the Douglas crew. I get together with them almost every year with Toro and Roy and the Molinese, and it's a small community. Everybody knows everybody, but we're shortly here. Hopefully you're gonna approve you. So welcome aboard.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it. Okay, so let's go with a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented with the removal, because I did have a talk with Angel Vidal, the assistant principal.
I thought we're gonna make a motion to pass that, what you removed first.
Okay, we can, either way.
Is that what we normally do?
Can't share.
Okay.
Go ahead and approve what you're.
Yeah. So
However you want to.
made a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented with the removal of Angel Vidal.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed say nay. Ayes have it, motion passes. Now, motion to approve Angel Vidal as assistant principal in athletics.
Athletic director. So moved.
Second.
Okay, the motion is second. Any further discussion?
Yeah, I just want to say, we usually do it the other way, but It's okay, same deal. It's okay, keep us alert, keep us on.
Keep you on your toes.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed say nay. Ayes have it, motion carries. And this meeting is adjourned
Congrats.
at 7:34.
Yeah.
That was a long one.